On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in Sarajevo. This single shot would change the world forever. Europe was divided into two armed camps. One wrong move would drag every major power into war. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia for the assassination. They issued an ultimatum demanding full control over the investigation. Serbia rejected key terms of the ultimatum. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia within days. Russia mobilized to defend Serbia. Germany declared war on Russia in response. Germany then declared war on France. The alliance system was pulling everyone in. Germany had a plan to invade France quickly through Belgium. It was meant to end the war in weeks. Britain had guaranteed Belgium's neutrality. When Germany invaded, Britain declared war immediately. Within 6 weeks of one assassination, the world's greatest powers were at war. Germany and France faced off along a line stretching from Belgium to Switzerland. This became known as the Western Front. Neither side could break through. Soldiers began digging trenches to protect themselves from enemy fire. By late 1914, both sides had dug hundreds of miles of trenches. An entire system of underground warfare was born. Soldiers lived in mud, rats, and disease. Many died from illness before ever seeing combat. The ground between the two trench lines was called no man's land. Crossing it almost certainly meant death. In 1915, Germany introduced chlorine gas on the battlefield. Soldiers had no protection and thousands suffocated. Both sides quickly developed gas masks to counter the chemical attacks. Warfare had entered a terrifying new era. Machine guns could fire hundreds of rounds per minute. They made traditional infantry charges suicidal. Massive artillery guns bombarded enemy trenches day and night. The noise alone could drive men to madness. Thousands of soldiers developed what was called shell shock. Today we know it as PTSD. While the West was locked in trenches, the Eastern Front was more fluid. Russia fought Germany and Austria-Hungary across vast territory. The Ottoman Empire entered the war on the side of the Central Powers. This opened new fronts across the Middle East. In 1915, Allied forces attempted to invade Gallipoli in Turkey. The campaign was a catastrophic failure. Australian and New Zealand soldiers fought bravely at Gallipoli. The battle became a defining moment in both nations' histories. In 1916, Germany launched a massive assault at Verdun, France. The battle lasted 10 months and killed nearly 700,000 men. Also in 1916, Britain launched the Battle of the Somme. On the first day alone, nearly 60,000 British soldiers were casualties. Britain introduced the tank at the Battle of the Somme. It was the first armored vehicle ever used in combat. Airplanes were a new invention, and both sides used them for reconnaissance. Soon they were shooting each other down. German pilot Manfred von Richthofen became the most feared ace of the war. He was known as the Red Baron. Germany used submarines called U-boats to blockade Britain. Merchant ships carrying food and supplies were sunk without warning. In 1915, a German U-boat sank the RMS Lusitania. Nearly 1,200 civilians died, including 128 Americans. The sinking of civilian ships turned American public opinion against Germany. Pressure grew on President Woodrow Wilson to act. In 1917, Germany secretly asked Mexico to attack the United States. Britain intercepted the message and shared it with America. In April 1917, the United States declared war on Germany. Fresh troops and resources would prove decisive. Meanwhile, Russia was falling apart from within. Revolution was brewing as war casualties mounted into the millions. In 1917, Tsar Nicholas II was overthrown. Russia descended into revolution and civil war. The new Bolshevik government signed a peace treaty with Germany. Russia was out of the war entirely by early 1918. With Russia gone, Germany moved thousands of troops to the Western Front. They launched a massive final offensive in 1918. Germany's spring offensive of 1918 nearly broke through Allied lines. It was their last desperate gamble to win the war. Fresh American troops helped the Allies absorb the blow. A massive Allied counteroffensive began in the summer of 1918. The Allied 100 Days offensive drove German forces back rapidly. Germany was losing ground faster than ever before. Back in Germany, food shortages and war exhaustion had broken the population. Mutinies began spreading through the German Navy. Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated on November 9, 1918. Germany was now a republic in chaos. At 11 a.m. on November 11, 1918, all fighting stopped. The Great War was finally over. Over 20 million people had been killed. Another 21 million were wounded. Entire generations of young men had been wiped out. Families across the world were shattered. In 1919, world leaders gathered in Paris to decide the fate of the defeated nations. The stakes could not have been higher. The conference was dominated by four leaders: Wilson, Lloyd George, Clemenceau, and Orlando. Each had very different goals. American President Woodrow Wilson proposed a fair peace based on his 14 points. He wanted a world free from war forever. France had suffered devastating losses on its own soil. Prime Minister Clemenceau demanded harsh punishment for Germany. The Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919, exactly 5 years after the assassination that started it all. The treaty included the war guilt clause, forcing Germany to accept full blame for the war. Germans were humiliated and furious. Germany was ordered to pay enormous war reparations to the Allied nations. The sum was so large it took until 2010 to fully repay. Germany lost significant territory, including Alsace-Lorraine and its overseas colonies. The country was dramatically reduced in size. Wilson's dream was a new international organization called the League of Nations. It was meant to prevent future wars through diplomacy. Ironically, the U.S. Senate refused to join the League of Nations. Wilson's greatest achievement was rejected by his own country. The Ottoman Empire was dismembered after the war. Britain and France carved up the Middle East between them. The war created entirely new countries across Europe and the Middle East. The map of the world was redrawn. The Austro-Hungarian Empire ceased to exist. It was replaced by Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. Europe was economically devastated by the war. Inflation, unemployment, and poverty spread across the continent. The harsh terms of Versailles left Germany economically crippled and deeply humiliated. The German people wanted revenge. A young Austrian named Adolf Hitler had fought in the war. He blamed Germany's defeat on betrayal from within. Hitler rose to power, promising to restore Germany's greatness. The conditions created by WW1 made WW2 almost inevitable. World War I ended empires, created nations, and reshaped civilization. Nothing would ever be the same again.